Welcome to Bet On It, where we're already discussing Thanksgiving, and that's over a week away. Why are we discussing Thanksgiving? Because I really don't want to talk about my record this week in college football. It was an absolute bloodbath.
I took a beating, too.
You know, these are the weeks that really hurt your soul. You know, you lose money, that sucks. You're not right, and then Twitter just annihilates you. But when you go 3-16 over college football and NFL, that is absolutely demoralizing. So I'm going to try to get through the show and focus on really good things like Turkey next
real
week.
quick, it really isn't. Honestly, that's going to happen. A 3-16 run isn't as rare as we think. Over the course of 1,000 bets, think about it. That's just 19 games. Like, you're going to have so many spots over 19 games where you're 13-6, where you're 6-13, where you're 18 well, rarely will you be 18-1, but that happens, you know, and you'll go 2-17. But over 1,000 bets, it gets mixed in there, so it doesn't even matter. That's how you have to look at it. It's just that it's bad because it happens over one weekend and it looks more devastating than it is. But if you bet correctly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you go 3-16 in 2 days or whether you go 3-16 over 7 days. That's irrelevant. Don't even sweat it. It's just as long as you're bet sizing correctly and you're not, now I can't bet tomorrow because I went 3-16, you're fine. That's going to happen. Just like 16-3 is going to happen. Don't sweat that.
I had a good college week, but I had NFL just Sunday kicked me.
You know, I have my weekly therapy sessions with John Murray over at the Westgate, and that's what I'm starting to call the podcast now. And it's, I mean, at least knowing that the sportsbook also got smoked made me feel just
exactly. It was their worst. It was their worst week ever of this season.
If the sports books get smoked, generally we're going to get smoked because we're going to be on the sides of the sports books because the sports books.
But I'm telling you, don't ever let something like that. I know people go nuts on Twitter. Oh, you went 0 and you know how that happens so much. Just walk through a casino, and as you're walking through the roulette tables, look up and see how many times there's 8-9 reds in a row.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. Even though it's 50-50, you should see 10 red, 10 black, right? But that's never the case. It'll be the case over 1,000 spins of the roulette wheel, but that's why they only show you the last 20 or 15 spins. So you could see that trend of 10 blacks and think reds due. It's not due. What had happened over the last 1,000 spins? So don't sweat that 3-16.
But see, I needed you to tell me that I was due. Okay.
Hit me up. I'll walk you off that bridge. Don't worry.
All right, guys. I'm Kelly Stewart. I am your host. To the right of me, Mr. Marco D'Angelo, Vegas runner. I can't call you that, but in about 45 days, I'm going to call you that every single time. At Greek_gambler. We're going to break down tonight's college football card. Really excited for this week. There's a lot of bets that I really enjoy. We're going to start off looking at some primetime Saturday night football games. Marco, are you going first?
Hey, whatever you want.
Okay.
Let's do it. Texas A&M, Georgia.
This is a Georgia team I stepped in front of last week. I'm not looking forward to stepping in front of them again, but I think we all might be in consensus here.
Yeah, well, last week I was on Georgia, got the win. They got out to the big lead.
I should say that you were both on Georgia.
Okay. This is a spot this week I got to go against them because right now that was the last hurdle supposedly for Georgia. Now they roll right into the SEC championship game, and we know if they win that, they're playing in the playoffs. So now for me, I think the rest of the season for Georgia is just
protect your lead, get the 0-0 on the clock, and let's move on.
Play not to lose.
Yeah, there ain't no statement games. There ain't no
because they don't need
style points or nothing. We just got to win and get to the SEC title game.
Yep.
Texas A&M's 11-3 against the spread the last 3 years following a home win, and Georgia's going to be facing a dual threat quarterback in Kellen Mond. This is a guy, if he doesn't throw a couple interceptions, he can move this offense, and I think you're looking at a team laying points. Georgia, they've scored 27 or fewer points in 6 of their last 7 games. That's not what you want with a team laying double digits, 13.5. I'm on Texas A&M.
So, VR, you're in agreement?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I like that.
I do as well. Let's talk about an interesting game here. Oklahoma versus TCU. Oklahoma, big chalk again this week. Kind of looks a little tricky. Last week I was on Baylor, obviously on the money line. Didn't get there, got the 10.5.
That was a good pick.
Baylor just didn't come out in the second half. I mean, Oklahoma absolutely dominated the time of possession. And this week, we've talked about it week in and week out on the show with me trying to back TCU. if their quarterback gets hurt, I don't need a running back that played quarterback in high school when I have a TCU ticket in my hand. I just don't like that risk. But I'm not rushing to back Oklahoma here. VR, I'll start with you.
Yeah, listen, I was wrong with Oklahoma last week. I thought that was a statement opportunity time for them because on paper, they are one of the top teams in the country. And we know what they have to do to have any shot at those playoffs, more or less. And they're just not doing it. I mean, they're winning, but they're not outperforming the betting market. They're barely winning games. I mean, look, the last 2 games they've won by a combined 4 points. So not all that attractive to like Oklahoma, but power rating wise, they're still the right side. And that's the scary part. Like it's hard to just disregard your power ratings and to keep dropping Oklahoma down just because they're winning. If they were losing, it's a different story, but they're winning these games. They're just not covering these games. And that's where the difficulty comes in. For me, it's a pass, but I would bet Oklahoma or leave it alone. I wouldn't look to the dog.
I agree with the pass. Marco, TCU 6-1 against the spread as a Big 12 dog of 10 or more points, 8-2 against the spread, and their second conference away game of the year. This is courtesy of Mark Lawrence from Playbook. I really enjoy his stuff. That's still not enough to get me to back TCU.
Under may be the way to go.
I'm on Oklahoma. You talk about 2 teams that had polar opposite games last week. TCU was winning 24-3, and my Twitter account was blowing up because everybody was busting my
game was dead in the water, and I was like, well, it's just going to add another one.
I was waiting for you to chime in too because you usually do when I give you a loser. But everybody's bitching about the game, and then whenever Texas Tech comes back and covers, crickets on Twitter. But then Oklahoma, they were the
Gaming
opposite.
Today came to your rescue. I want you to know that.
Yes, I know they did, and. I'm one of their star writers. Come on. And the situation, though, Oklahoma coming just the opposite. They were getting blown out 28-3 and come back and win the game 34-31. I think this is the game where last week Baylor, that was their game of the century for them with the new regime, with the Matt Rule there. Oklahoma, this is the style point game. This is the game where they got to get style points because they're still on the outside looking in.
I mean, OU still needs a lot of help to get to the college football playoff. They're going to need probably Oregon to lose, maybe even Utah to lose, and obviously LSU losing in the SEC championship game would be really detrimental to them. So you're right. They do need to put on a show here to get into a really good bowl game.
I got them winning by 23.
Okay, great stuff. As always, it's time for us to step out for a quick break. When we return, it's going to be time to break down the big game this week. You know what that is. That's Penn State at Ohio State. I can't wait to hear these guys' opinions on that one.
Get $25 in wager bucks added to your account after your first purchase at wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com. This is just our way of saying thank you for joining the Wager Talk and Sports Memo family. Every Monday at wagertalk.com, all plays are just $9. This even includes top-rated 5% plays, which normally sell for $40. There's no better day to get winning picks than $9 Mondays at wagertalk.com and our sister site, sportsmemo.com.
Welcome back to Bet On It. You guys probably wanted us to talk about this game in the last segment, but it is such a primetime game, it gets its own segment this week. That's right, Penn State at Ohio State. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight, or is it not? I'm looking at this going, Penn State's been out-yarded in half of its games this season, minus 33 net yards per game in their last 5 games. I bet against them once this year, and that was versus Minnesota. I do not have a good read on this Penn State team, I'll be honest with you. And there's Ohio State superseding expectations week in and week out. Of course, they don't get the cover when it hits 55 or whatever it was. But that was almost to be expected. I think they could have named the score. They called off the Dogs. Marco, I'll start with you. Are you laying the points here with the Buckeyes?
No.
Okay.
Am I taking the points with Penn State? No. I'm looking at the total in this game. And, Kelly, we're going to look at this one. And, Penn State was in a horrible spot last week. They were coming off their first loss of the season against Minnesota. So we talk about the dream crusher effect. And then they had Ohio State on the horizon. Reason why I was on Indiana last week. Indiana got the cover. And you look at that game, Penn State went up and down the field against Indiana. Indiana doesn't have a great defense. But what concerns me in that game is Indiana also went up and down the field, okay? In Indiana, although they do have a good offense, it's not going to go toe-to-toe with Ohio State. So my concern here is, how does Penn State stop Ohio State? Now, on the flip side, we've got that factor. Two things to consider here with Ohio State in this total. One, we're talking about late November in Ohio. So watch the weather on Saturday. Right now, they're calling for a light possible drizzle. That's not an issue if that's the situation. I still like this game to go over the total. The other thing that I'm looking at with Ohio State, last week they gave up 21 points to Rutgers. We know how bad Rutgers is. Well, what was different about last week? No Chase Young, best defensive player in the country, maybe the best player, period, in the country. And, the situation with the suspension, if he's out again, which is expected, this is not the same defense. And I think we're going to see most people, we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago when we had the Alabama LSU. We talk about the old games. These are not these are not the same teams.
Correct.
Okay, all right. These teams are offensive-minded teams. In Ohio State, they're averaging the highest scoring team in the country at 51 points per game. There's only one way for me to play this game, and that's to look at the over with Ohio State.
All right, VR, you laying the lumber here with the Buckeyes?
I haven't bet this game. You've seen sharp money come in on the over. Public's going to be on the over as well. Books are going to be hoping for a low-scoring game, but I got to agree with Marco here. But wait and check on the weather. But personally, here's the bottom line. Penn State's played Ohio State really tough. I mean, the last 2 times, I think it was by 1 point they beat them. I know they haven't covered 3 straight. So, it seems like Penn State's been competitive against them. But you look at Ohio State, and here's what sticks out to me the most. Only 2 teams have been able to score more than 14 points against them. One was Florida Atlantic in week 1. The second was Rutgers last week. And why? Because those are teams they know pose no threat. They could blow those teams out. It's just a matter of how they could pick the score.
So you think they were being lazy?
It's all it was. And,
no, that's fair.
And you're sitting players. You're sticking in kids that barely are playing.
Especially if you're
up that much.
Yeah.
You're totally changing your game plan, everything. It's like you just don't want your guys to get hurt now.
Well, you don't want your guys to get hurt before a big game. And as you mentioned, you'd like to see how those backups do play.
Yeah, you want to get them. And when you're up by 40, that's when you're going to stick them in. So when you're giving that many points, I mean, you're going to get some back doors. You're going to get some junk touchdowns. But when Ohio State has had a team across from them where they pose any type of threat, they've completely shut them down. No, you can't score on them. And that's where I think they'll get a lead, and I think that lead will continue to grow. And eventually it'll end up being by 20, 24, and it'll end up covering the spread. I think Ohio State's the only way I can look. The only problem is you're not getting too much line value. I think if you – and most power ratings, guys that I respect, they have Ohio State up at the top right now. Everyone had to make that adjustment and give Ohio State their due. I don't think anyone would be favored over Ohio State right now on a neutral field. But again, even with that said, I don't think there's much line value where this number is right now, laying it, but there's no value taking it either. I think it's Ohio State or leave it alone.
You talked about the closest. Last 3 games between these two have been decided by a grand total of 5 points.
Yeah, yeah.
5 points.
Penn State had their number, man.
All right, great stuff. I can't wait to not watch this game, but mainly because due to time constraints. Let's bring in our resident let's bring in our resident stat guy, Mr. Ralph Michaels, with this week's TNA. All right, it's that time of the week. Mr. Ralph Michaels in studio, giving us all of the good stuff. I'm going to keep that intro short because you have a laundry list of stuff to give us in only 4 minutes. And rapid fire.
Well, week 8 on. So we're midway through the season, a little more in college football. Teams that are off a shutout win. Defense is playing well, right?
Yes.
It's that simple. Teams off a shutout win have covered 66% the last 5 years.
Wow.
Week 8 on. So we're not talking about those early games where you're playing a very weak foe or an FCS opponent. We're talking you're into conference play, you're into midseason, injuries taking effect. And when there's an over-under total of 60 or less, so, we're throwing out some high-scoring teams. Those teams have gone 21-7, 75% against the spread. One team fits, the team that pitched the shutout last week, Virginia Tech.
Ooh.
So the Hokies are in that role. This is one that I've talked about on numerous shows that I do. It's one that I've played. I've actually used this situation several times. And we're fading a team that's won 4 straight and has been pretty popular. But playing on a team that outgained its foes by 120 yards and won. So you probably weren't the better team on the field. You maybe got some turnovers. You maybe got some special teams touchdowns. Those teams have gone 14-34 the next game, covering only 29%. Now, this fade is on Illinois against Iowa. Sometimes, though, teams like Illinois have won 4 straight, just learn how to win ugly games. So I am not going to get to the window in this one, but at least it's something easy to check on the box score.
But if you do like Iowa, then maybe that does get you to the window.
Absolutely. So simply, if a team got outgained by 120 or more yards and won the game, the next week they're an away dog, like Illinois. That's been a fade situation. This is one I love, and people always think when you get to 5 wins and it's November, you get to 6 wins, you go to a bowl. That's a promising and motivating tool. Well, we know that need doesn't necessitate you're going to win.
No kidding.
November teams with 5 wins, and now they're a home dog, 29-57 against the spread, 33.7%. So just because you need a 5th win, well, listen, you've gone through the season. You probably have more losses than you have wins. You're a home dog this week, so you're not the better team. 2 teams it applies to, Arizona State against Oregon and Charlotte against Marshall.
Oh.
Last week, I mentioned this as well. Remember, we talked about Cal?
Yes.
And we talked about Missouri. Did it get you off Missouri?
No, and I got to the window.
You said you were jumping off Missouri last week.
And everybody was like, you shouldn't listen to Ralph. Yeah, well, I'm
You said you were going to. All right, and last one. Road teams off back-to-back wins by 28 or more points, and their opponent allowed 35 or more points. So we have a team, dominant back-to-back wins. We have an opponent that gave up a lot of points. Well, 35 points, that's every Big 12 game, right? So, but that's not where we're going. Those teams, those road teams that are off back-to-back big wins, facing an opponent that gave up a lot of yards, 93-49 against the spread since 2014, so a big sample size.
Yeah.
66% covers, a very nice number, and it's the Oregon Ducks. Their last 2 wins, 56-24. Yep.
Okay.
34-6 win. Arizona State allowed 35 points.
So back-to-back, you have a fade on Arizona State and a play on Oregon. Will that get you to the window with the Ducks?
You know, they're up there for me. And having 2 strong systems that have nothing to do with each other. You know, a lot of times systems or angles intermix, and then there's some correlating numbers that overlap. There are no overlapping factors in these 2 things, which makes it even stronger.
All right, I like it. I may get to the window with Oregon. We're going to see. They're on my long list. We're going to see how this plays out this week. It is just Wednesday. Great stuff, as always, from Ralph. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, it is time to walk those pups. That's right. Barking Dogs is up next. Get ready for those sprinkles, guys.
I'm Gianni the Greek Corrales, and I absolutely love this weekend's card. In fact, I've been pushing long-term to you guys. We're up over the last 30 days, up over the last 365 days. But more importantly, this weekend, Saturday college football and Sunday NFL, we are dropping bombs. And I'm going to go ahead and put up the package for Saturday for $39, for Sunday for $39. You're going to get all access, all the college football, all the NFL, plus some 5% big moves. There's already one NFL in there already. 39 on Saturday, 39 on Sunday. Let's win this weekend.
Want up-to-the-minute scores and odds direct from Las Vegas? Then check out our Wager Talk odds page. You'll get all the latest lines along with moves as they happen from all the biggest books in Las Vegas, including Westgate Superbook, Circa, Golden Nugget, Wynn, Stations, CG, and South Point, just to name a few. Best of all, it's absolutely free.
Welcome back to almost my favorite portion of the show. I got in trouble from Ralph Michaels for saying this was my favorite, and then also he was my favorite, and he's like, you need to make a decision. So I've made a decision. TNA is my favorite. Underdogs. What? Like, it's like 1A and 1B. Calm down. All right. I love those underdogs. We know VR likes to have that little sprinkle that I've completely stolen on my Sunday show. My co-host is like,
everybody else has.
He's like, that's so genius. I'm like, I took it from VR. Like, it's not mine. I didn't come up with it. And then the salt guy, it looks like the same thing where he like throws the salt in there. You know, it's just all kind of come together now. All right, Marco, starting with you. Tell me your barking dog.
My barking dog, we're going to go to Texas at Baylor. Guys,
I was ready to pick them, I swear. Wow.
There are losses, and then there are devastating losses, okay? Hey, Kelly, and I know that me and you talked in the green room beforehand. I don't know how Baylor picks himself up off the mat. I love Matt Rule, and I think he has done one hell of a job.
They picked themselves up the same way I'm going to pick myself up this week. You just got to do it and keep on moving forward.
Do you remember your text and conversations for the past 2 days, Kelly? All right. I don't know if that's exactly, it takes a while.
I hate everyone and everything, including Jameis Winston, especially all these other, laundry lists.
The biggest game for Baylor since Rule got there, okay? This was national stage. We're talking undefeated season. You're rolling 28-3 and you're at home. How does that happen? How do you lose that game? Saturday night, we went here in town. Fleetwood Mac was in town. I'm a big Stevie Nicks fan, huge crush from when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And I'm walking just as we left to go into the concert. I see 28-3, and I'm like, and I have Baylor. I go, oh man, this is great, And I'm like, they almost gave the game away. They only had 17 offensive plays in the second half.
They had the time of possession of 5 minutes and 30 seconds. It was the most asinine thing I've ever seen for a stat.
They get outscored 24-0 in the second half to lose the game. Now you've got to pick yourself up off the mat and play Texas. Now I realize Texas is a big name in the Big 12 and all of that, but I just don't see how these kids, they were so close to an undefeated season and playing. If they run the table, if they would have beat Oklahoma, took care of business here, win, and then they're going to face Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship game. They got to get them. You got to have an undefeated team.
You do
that wins a conference.
To think that they were probably going to get into the college football playoff regardless was a stretch. That's my only thing. I think that it depends on how Matt Rule has them. Yeah, I think it depends on how Matt Rule has this team and their mentality. You're absolutely right. That is going to make or break them against Texas.
So now the flip side to that is there's also the thing is they've got the rematch on the horizon. So now you lost that game. You've got the rematch coming in the Big 12 championship game in 2 weeks.
But they have to beat Texas to get in that Big 12.
No, they actually have a buffer here. They only have to win one of their last two games to lock it up. And the teams behind them have to win both games. And they have an easy game
with KU.
Yeah. So it's a situation where Baylor's going to be there. I just don't know how they get motivated for this one. And we got to throw the stat out there. Everybody's going to say it. Tom Herman isn't as an underdog. He's 15-4 against the spread. He got me the money.
He got me last week.
Got me the money last week.
I was on Iowa State last week.
I'm there. I'm going to take him again. And Texas has scored 27 or more points in every game but one this year. In 6 of their games this year, they've scored 36 or more. I'm getting points with a team, playing a team that could be flatsy. And how about, we use the phrase, lose a game twice?
Yeah.
Okay, they can lose the Oklahoma game twice if they don't come in here ready to play. I got Texas, and I'm going to go ahead and call for the upset.
Okay, then. VR, you're up. Who's your barking dog this week?
All right, I'm going to go with Charlotte against Marshall. They're getting about a touchdown in a game they could very easily win. Marshall's looked impressive of late, but things have just fell nicely for them. They played a Rice team on the road that's 1-5 in conference and has nothing for them. And then last week when they went to play Louisiana Tech, right before kickoff, the coach suspends their starting quarterback for Louisiana Tech. So Marshall's been having things fall their way. And they've been winning and covering games, 3 of their last 4, in fact. But here comes Charlotte now. They're sitting at 5-5. Needing a game to win. Now, they have Old Dominion up after Marshall, so there's that little insurance policy. They should be able to beat an Old Dominion team on the road to get the 6 wins. But I think it's against Marshall they want to do that here now. And the one problem Marshall's had is when they face teams that are able to run the football against them. And Charlotte can do that. They have a balanced offense, but their rushing attack this year is over 5 yards per carry. I think that continues against Marshall. They'll have success, stay in the game from start to finish. +7's a gift. I think they could win the game outright. that has sprinkle written all over it. Not double, but one hand's worth it.
Just a one-handed.
Yeah, yeah.
Left or right? Does
No,
it
left,
matter?
left, left, left.
Why is it left? Do I always do left? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I always do right whenever I But anyway, okay, VR, I'm going to stick with you. We're going to hit your Steam game of the week. This one has been steamed for sure. This one's down almost 2 points, but you think there's still some value left?
Yeah, yes, I do. And with totals, you want to get out ahead of the market. And as Kelly touched on, this line has moved, but it hasn't gone through that key 51 yet. That's why we're still going to use it as our Steam bet. And that's the under in Duke Wake Forest. Like I said, it's 51 and going down as we speak. Listen, you see Duke, this is a team that has not been able to score and just turning the ball over. The reason, if you look at the points they've allowed, it looks like Wake Forest is going to have an easy time putting up points, so this game could easily go over. But the reason teams have been putting up points against Duke is because they've allowed 19 turnovers in their last 6 games. When you turn the ball over 3 times a game, your defense is going to give up points. That's a given. But that's always going to regress. That's the one thing you could depend on with turnovers. With all teams, there's a regression and progression towards the mean. And I think that's what we're going to see here. Again, I think Wake Forest isn't going to put up those 40 points that we've seen the Notre Dames and the Syracuses do. And like I said, I don't think Duke could put up much points either against Wake Forest. As long as it's 51 or better, you're getting some value. I like the under.
All right, Marco. The deli has been doing really well. Are we sticking with the sandwich games this week?
We're sticking with the sandwich here, and we've got a mother of sandwiches. This sandwich was circled back when the schedules came out, when we were talking about stuff.
Okay.
Where I did some shows and, previewing teams in conferences, and I said, I am going to have Michigan circled for this week simply because you got Michigan coming off playing their in-state rival, Michigan State, last week, blow them out, blow the doors off of them, and the Michigan State program, God, I don't know. They have totally quit on the coach. This team's in total disarray. There's going to be a major shakeup at Michigan State after the season, I believe. But you win 44-10 last week against your in-state rival. It's not as big of a rival game for them. We talked about that last week. It's bigger for Michigan State because their big rival is next week. It's the game. Coach Jim Harbaugh, he has been, he can't beat Michigan. Michigan can't beat Ohio State. And we've seen coaches in this series, John Cooper, for example, for Ohio State. Every year, his teams would win 10, 11 games, but he couldn't beat Michigan. Didn't survive there. Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State. You've got to beat your main rival. That's what the alumni wants. They're looking ahead to that game. And Indiana showed me a lot of heart last week. There was a point in that game last week, and I watched the entire game because I had Indiana. They were at midfield on a 4th and 1. They lined up to go for it. Then they called timeout. When they came back out of the timeout, they lined up to do a punt in a gimmick formation of the punt alignment. They only had like 3 guys in the middle and all the guys on the wing, and they run a fake punt. Like, who didn't know you're running a fake punt and it got blown up, okay? If you're going to go for it on 4th and 1, I'm sorry, I'm going to rant. Put your freaking offense on the field and go for it, okay?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you're right. That was
all right.
Every 7-year-old at home that's watched 2 football games knew what they were doing.
Okay, and it blows up, gives Penn State, and they were only down 6 at the time. 3 plays later, Penn State burst for a 35-yard touchdown run, and I thought Indiana was going to be dead in the water. They're down 13 points. We're getting 14 with a 14.5 against Indiana or against Penn State last week, and I thought that was going to be the point that they were done because most teams, after a sequence like that, is going to throw in a towel. They showed me heart coming back in that game and taking Penn State right down to the wire. We got the cover with them. I think they play here. Their offense is good. They went up and down the field on Penn State at Happy Valley. Now they're playing at home, catching Michigan in a spot where they're going back and forth, coming off Michigan State and the Ohio State game next week. I don't know. And even if they fall behind with that offense, you always got the back door open. And, we know we like sneaking into the back door whenever we can with one. And you need an offense that can score points, and shows heart that will never quit. That's what you want with a dog.
I agree with you. I have Indiana on my long list. I also really like VR Charlotte. I have that on my possible 3 team.
I can't believe Michigan's going up to 9.5.
This is what
That's
happens.
how 3 and 16 happens. You got to whittle that down a little bit, girl.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm sitting here doing. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at some notes. I'm trying to figure things out. I just am, we're going to call it overstudying this week. I didn't go to the VGK game last night with all my coworkers because I said, you know what?
You missed a hell of a game.
I'm just happy that I got
Marc-Andre
VGK.
Fleury, everybody knows I have a man crush on him from his days with
Pittsburgh,
the Penn.
yeah.
Did you see the save he made last night?
It was to save my puck line bet. So that was nice. Well, they were up 1. He saved, and then they pulled the goalie, and then they scored. Yeah, it was a really interesting game that I watched via the Score mobile
Sometime
app.
ask John Murray when you do your show with him, what does it feel like getting kicked in the lower region, or a punch in the stomach, or a punch in the face whenever the Golden Knights get that empty net goal to cover the puck line? Because here in Vegas, there's only one way everybody's playing, and they're always a big favorite at home generally. They're playing the puck line, and the books get crushed.
They have to. I mean, it is what it is. I think he's kind of a little pseudo VGK fan these days. So we'll see. I'll ask him today. But great stuff from Marco and VR. We're going to step out for a quick break. When we return, it's your favorite time of the show. That's right. It's Best Bet Times. All 3 of us are going to give out our favorite college games. Week 13. It's week 13. Yeah. It's insanity. All right, we'll be back with more.
This week, I passed 35,000 followers on Twitter. And to celebrate that milestone and to thank everyone who has followed along, I'm offering 35% off every package I'm selling at wagertalk.com. Through Monday at midnight. Just use coupon code MARCO35 at checkout, and you'll receive 35% off any daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly package. Just my way of saying thanks for following along.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It's that time of the show you guys have been waiting for. It's time to look at this week's best bets in college football. All right, boys, I'll give it a start here. A little gun shy, I will say. This week, I do have a ton of bets, as you saw on my little sheet of paper. But the one I really like the most, because it fits in mathematically, it fits in situationally, and I also think this underdog is going to be able to keep it close. So it checks all of my boxes, is Liberty.
I like it. I love it.
17.5 is what I got it at. It's currently at 17. This is a play also against Virginia. That's why I mentioned situational. This Virginia team hasn't really made their backers much money this year. They've been short favorites and done well in those situations. But now we're asking them before the Virginia Tech game to beat a Liberty team by 17.5. And that seems easy enough. Remember when Liberty was a 7.5 point favorite over Rutgers? And I said, hey, Rutgers is the play. Sure looks like Liberty's the play to me. I took the 17.5. I really like this one. It made my personal card, and so far is my best bet of the week. Remember, we are filming on Wednesday, so if I change it by Saturday, nobody giving me grief on Twitter.
Give me liberty or give me death.
That's where I'm at mentally right now. Like, give me all the winners, or I'm going to jump off the top of the Westgate.
Stratosphere's higher.
I know. I'll probably just break my legs at the top of the Westgate, and then I'll just be really screwed. Stratosphere. At least, but at the Stratosphere, they let you bungee in.
Yeah.
Like, so then it's
Would you do that?
Oh, yeah. Let's go. We should take a field trip to do that. That'd be fun. You wouldn't do that?
No. Hell no.
God. You're
Hell
such a
no.
baby.
I am.
You're strapped in. Where are you going to go? Okay. All right, Marco.
We're going to go to Kansas State, Texas Tech.
Oh, God.
You're gonna like my play. And
I already
guys,
played
the last two weeks we've been dead on Texas Tech. Yeah, all you that tweeted at me last week when we were down 24-3, we had them right where we wanted them.
I was not going to tweet at you because I was already having an epically bad morning myself, so I didn't deserve to give anybody else grief for theirs. But I was very happy when I walked in the door and saw Texas Tech down 2.
They roared back, but now, and the reason we were on Texas Tech 2 weeks in a row is they were catching opponents that were in bad sandwich spots, and we took advantage of it with a team that can move the football, doesn't play any defense, but can score points. And whenever you can't stop anybody, if you're playing somebody that's in a flat spot, that helps negate that bad defense. Okay, well, this week, that is not the case. The team that's actually in the sandwich is Texas Tech. They're coming off playing TCU, fellow in-state rival. And who do they got up next? Texas. That's their big game every year. They'll play that game on Friday. And I'm going to look at this one where they're coming off a gut-wrenching loss. They were getting blown out, come back, had the lead for a moment, and then TCU gets the touchdown with the last remaining quarterback on the on the team. And he had a hell of a game.
He did.
He had a hell of a game.
And no doubt, I think Duffy will have a good game, but this is probably the better defense that they've seen for most of the year. And this is a K-State team that always tends to do well against teams like Texas Tech, KU, those lower teams, and not West Virginia. And that's because I think they got a little too fat and sassy last week.
And Kelly, this Texas Tech defense, how bad it is, to put it in perspective, how many college teams are there? 130. They're ranked 115th out of 130.
Good grief.
Okay? Your Kansas State team should score early and often and throughout the game, and they can run the football. And that is a problem with Texas Tech. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass either. This is going to be a game, and Kansas State's got to be in a foul mood after losing to West Virginia last week. And that was a spot for them. They lost a close game the week before against Texas, that, carry over to lose a game twice scenario. You're going to get an angry bunch of Wildcats. And I know when this Wildcat gets angry, I know how she is.
In the Cheez-It Bowl, they better win. They better win at Texas Tech.
I want to go.
I want to go to the Cheez-It Bowl because it's close, and I don't want to have to go to Memphis again.
Yeah.
You don't like walking in Memphis?
Not in January. If I'm going to go to Memphis, let me go when it's in April or May, but not in January.
All right.
It's pretty pointless. All right,
You got
VR,
me. Kansas State.
We're ready for your best bet.
All right. I got to try to give you guys a winner. I keep getting over and over to keep hearing, oh, you gave out a best bet. It wasn't even on your card. I get that all the time. Or, oh, you're up in college football. How come you're not giving us the winners on the show? The truth is, I give you what I have up until today. It's Wednesday, guys. And if you check my Instagram, I actually put a picture up of what my sheet looks like on Saturday. This is what it looks like today. That's nothing for college football. Go to my Instagram, you'll see by Saturday what it looks like. And that's why smash that like button, smash that subscription. Seriously, the bigger it gets, the more we'll be able to do more things. I would love to do something live on a Saturday and tell you what we got going on, or a Friday where I have so much information. With that said, I got something that I already bet. So this is actually, I gave it out to subscribers. I bet this play, so I'll use it as my best bet. It's a Friday night game. I took Colorado State plus the 7 against Wyoming. I think it's a great spot for Colorado State. Wyoming, they could run the football. And it appears they're going to have success against a Colorado State defense that allows around 5 yards per carry. Here's the catch. Colorado State's coming off a game where they played against Air Force, where all you see is running. And now they're going up against Wyoming right afterwards. I think they're going to have a lot easier time against that Wyoming rush attack after having faced Air Force, having prepared for Air Force prior. I think that the way the scheduling sets up for them is great for Colorado State. And again, 7 points is just way too many. I have this game should be around 3.5, 4-point favorite at the most. Getting a couple extra points of line value is the best I could ever hope for as a bettor. If you're going to lay 11 to 10, at least try to get the best of it. And I think at plus 7, we are. I know this line's coming down, so it's attracted a lot of wise guy money. But rest assured, there'll be more than enough public money on the Wyoming side to offset that. So if the line does come off that 7, you may want to sit back and wait and see if it goes back up, especially with this being the only game on Friday night, the TV game. You'll see Wyoming teasers, Wyoming moneyline parlays, a lot of Wyoming money. So this line may go back up, but I like the Colorado State side.
Add one thing to your Colorado State side. Wyoming's coming off of back-to-back gut-wrenching losses 2 weeks ago against Boise State, where they were playing for first place in the Mountain West. Then they come back last week and lose to Utah State in a game that looked close at the final. But in the fourth quarter, Utah State didn't do nothing offensively because quarterback Love got knocked out of the game, and then they did nothing in the fourth quarter, but Utah State still hung on for the victory.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for Colorado State.
I like it. I just played it 7 minus 120, still available. All right, now we're going to go to a newer segment called Ask the Experts. My favorite tweet this week was, "Who's the expert?" Not me. Clearly. Did you see my record last week? That could be the expert next week, hopefully. Marco, I'm going to start with you. We're going to take some questions we found from Twitter. I got quite a few. We'll see how much time permits. Matt Angelo asked, what is your process for picking your best bet, your sandwich, your dogs, etc., and what is the number one thing you take into consideration when assessing value?
Well, for value, let's start there. You look at games. I want to find something that's not baked into the number. And that's where situational handicapping comes into play, because everybody knows
what players
stats.
are worth, what this is, how to quantify
Somebody's
different
hurt,
factors.
they take, you adjust the line. So I want to find those angles like we talk about, who did you just play? So what I do every week when I start, and Kelly, I send you.
I see him.
I send you a tablet. Every Monday morning, I go through the entire card, both college and pro, through every single game, and I do what I call who, what, and where. Who did you just play? What happened? And where do you play next? That's what I do with every game on the schedule, and I set up those situations where a team's coming off a big game or has a big game on deck, and there you have, it's right there on my desk all week long to see those games. And a lot of those games, as you see, end up making the show here on Wednesday. That's what I do for doing it. And the who, what, and where, it's simple. Who did you play? Was it a rival? Were you playing for the division lead and you lost it? Those are the type of things where you want to look. That's how you find flat spots. You can talk to, bookmakers around town, and you have a great relationship with John Murray. Those are things they don't put in lines. That's intangibles.
No, they definitely don't.
Okay.
And we've talked about it several times. You and I argue with Brian Leonard
about
trap spots all the time. And I got John Murray to admit, of course we try to trap people. Why wouldn't we? Make something look a little bit more attractive than it should be. Lipstick on a pig, here you go. Lay the 7 with Penn State on the road in Minnesota, whatever it may be, right? And then, oh, by the way, now we're going to drop the line because we've seen sharp money and make it even more attractive. I absolutely agree with you. They don't put things like sandwich spots, scheduling spots into consideration into the math.
So great question from Matt Angelo, and hope that answered it for him.
Awesome. VR, this one's for you. Bill Huberry asks, is it better to place bets early or late in the week? I'm going to make that a two-part question with myself. Do you assess games? We know that Teddy Covers and Drew Martin do a opening line report for the NFL. Do you assess games going, hey, I know that this is going to get bet down, and when it hits a certain number, we're going to bet it back? Kind of go through your process of deciding when to bet early, when to bet late.
One of the best questions I've ever gotten, because that's key. When you place your bet is almost as important at times as what bet you're placing, because at the end, that's how you're going to grade it. Did I bet it at the optimum time? You don't grade your bet by the result, because so much randomness is going to happen is going to be the reason for the result. We see it all the time, week in, week out. One call by the ref changes the outcome. So you can't be result-based. You got to focus on, did you place good bets? And it's very easy to know that. Look at your ticket. What's the betting line? And then where did it close? Did you beat the closing number? If you did, and you could continue to do that, you're a mathematical certainty to turn a profit long term. Now, whether to bet early or late, here's the bottom line. If you're waiting till Sunday morning to place all your NFL bets, you won't make money betting sports.
Thank you.
You can't make money betting sports. I'm telling you that right now. You're going to lose long term to your bookmaker. There's no way that the optimum time to place all your NFL wagers is on the day of the game. Impossible. Because that's when the bookmakers also have received all the information. Every bit of info has been factored into the betting line. Every wise guy's picked at that number. Every sharp betting group has done all their work to see, is there any value left in that number? So if you're waiting till Sunday to fire, it's too late. You're simply laying 11 to win 10 on a coin flip. And when you have those great 5-1 weeks, I'm sorry to break it to you, that's a product of good luck. You didn't make any good bets. If you didn't beat the closing line, if you've gotten worse numbers than what it closes at, even if you went 5-0, you didn't place any good bets. You just got lucky. And that's why the book will continue taking your action and knowing over time they're going to take your money. Because if you continue to place bad bets, it's just a matter of time before it costs you. So the key is to place good bets. So getting back to answer that question, it's sometimes you want to bet early, sometimes you want to bet late. The goal is to bet at the optimum time. And to do that is try to read the market, and that takes years, if not decades, to learn how to determine which way the market's moving. And if you can guess right 6 out of 10 times, you're so ahead of the game. There'll be times where you lay 3 and the line goes to 2.5, and you're like, damn, I should have waited. It's going to happen. But if you're right 6 out of the 10, you got a better number because you were able to guess which way the market was going to go. You're so far ahead of the game. And again, I do this for real. Like, I love giving picks and all this, but I bet for real. Like, so for me, it's all about placing good bets and protecting my bankroll.
Awesome stuff, VR. We're going to step out for a quick break. When we return, it is our final thoughts on this week's college football action. And boy, do we have some final thoughts. Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at wagertalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at wagertalk and sportsmemo.com.
Hey guys, if you happen to be in Las Vegas on Sunday, December 1st, stop by the Westgate. If you ever wanted to meet one of the Wager Talk cappers or Sports Memo cappers, we're going to have a bunch of them there Sunday, December 1st at the clubhouse at the Westgate Sportsbook. We're going to buy you some drinks, talk, ask us questions. It's a fun meet and greet and watch the ball games with the Wager Talk crew. Check it out Sunday, December 1st here in Las Vegas at the Westgate.
All right, it's your favorite time of the week. We're going to recap all this week's plays. So far, you guys haven't made Marco angry by skipping to the end, so let's keep it honest. You guys got to watch through this painfully boring show. All right, let's start. Primetime games, Texas A&M at Georgia. We have Texas A&M plus 13.5 from both guys. TCU at Oklahoma. Land the lumber with Oklahoma minus 19. Woo, guys, that one's scary. All right, Penn State, Ohio State. Marco likes the over 57.5. VR is laying it with Ohio State minus 18. Next up, we got the Barking Dogs. Texas, which I hope Marco is dead wrong here, and VR that I hope is dead right. Charlotte is probably going to make my 3-team moneyline parlay. And let's move on to Sandwich and Trap. Oh, Sandwich and Trap. Sandwich and Steam. I can't even talk today, you guys. I haven't had my coffee yet. Steam game of the week. VR is going with the under 51, Wake Forest and Duke. And you guys need to jump on that quickly because it will be headed to 50.5 here shortly. And as he mentioned in the show, 51 is a key number here in college football totals. Sandwich game, Marco.
Indiana.
All right, Indiana in that nice prime middle spot. This one is plus 9 currently. I think we might see some money coming on in Indiana before it's all said and done. We'll recap the best bets. Marco with Kansas State. VR touched on in an earlier segment about getting the best of the number. Guess who has a pick 'em with Kansas State in their pocket because she was wrong about what the market was going to do. But I do like the plus 2. VR Friday night game. Remember, guys, this is a Friday night game. Colorado State, 6.5. There are still 7s available, but we gave you mainly the consensus number. You will have to lay 120 if you want the 7. And I like Liberty plus 17. Woo! This was a fun one. I need a big bounce back week, guys. I hope.
You'll get it. You've had a good season overall, though.
Overall, it's been pretty good.
Yeah,
but,
what's the most you could ask for to be up? I mean, for the season.
You can't.
Seriously.
People would expect us to win every single week. You can't do it. Okay. Remember, the best.
But I saw on Instagram this little short guy that carries a purse. He wins every week, you guys. That's what he tells us.
Oh, he never loses.
Sure.
He never loses a bet.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that's where it gets hard, is where the expectation level is high, and myself too included. I know you guys are hard on yourself as well, but the expectation level to win and to provide not only free entertainment for everyone out there and give winners, but also to our clients, our friends, everybody else on social media. So it gets hard. But I appreciate you guys getting me through the show. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. That is the college edition of Bet On It. We enjoy doing the show each and every week. If you are not a subscriber to Wager Talk on the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, notification button. That way you'll always be the first to know. Until next week, make sure you bet on it.